Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am Fred Wellman, FP Wellman, right here live on Democracy Sunday, our third episode. Third episode. I haven't had enough coffee yet. As always on Sunday, I never had a coffee. As you can see, I'm not in St. Louis. I'm visiting beautiful Richmond, Virginia on the road. So we're taking the show on the road because we can. We had the technology, we had the ability. So welcome again. We love seeing you guys here. Welcome to our regulars. I'm seeing you in the chat already. Thanks for saying hi. Remember, if you're new here, to like and subscribe and share and all the things we need you to do to grow our audience. Don't forget to do that. It's very important. We're pulling the show out of our professional sides, JJ and I, this week, since we are mobile. I got to tell you, the guests are insane this week, though. Ben Wikler, who's been all over the place, running for DNC chair, is going to join us, talk about his campaign. I butted heads with Congressman Ro Khanna on X, Twitter, and to his credit, I said, let's talk about it. And he came on the show. He's going to join us. I think he's driving in an Uber when he's going to join us, but that's okay. He's joining us. That's what matters the most. And we got Chris Titus, who is on the road all the time and exhausted, and hopefully he joins us. We'll see. Either way, we'll figure it out because it's live, and it's live Sunday, and you're here with us, and thank you for joining us. Let's start with the news a little bit. It's been a weird news week. A lot of weird things. We are learning more about the fall of the Assad regime in Syria as it's gone on. It's been kind of a dramatic week if you follow international affairs and following these stories. I learned so much this week about what's been going on because I don't know about you guys, but I haven't necessarily been paying attention to local politics, anything but our own politics, to be very honest with you. And so I had to pay attention a little bit more. This story has become even more fascinating. When we first talked about this last week, they had just gotten an announcement that the government had fallen. Since then, the rebels, the HTS rebels, have taken over the country. And here's what's really remarkable. I was reading an article today, and I love, this is actually a quote, "The transition has been surprisingly smooth. Reports of reprisals, revenge killings, and sectarian violence have been minimal. Looting and destruction have been quickly contained, insurgent fighters disciplined. On Saturday, people went about their lives as usual in the capital, Damascus. Only a single van of fighters was even seen," which is kind of incredible if you've been anywhere, even with us American troops when we were in Iraq and everywhere. Afghanistan, things go crazy. So, to their credit, the rebels so far have found ways to keep the peace and attempt to govern, and that's been a very big part of what they've been asking for. What's been shocking is the videos, if you've seen any, and I won't show them in here, of freed prisoners. They've gone into the various prisons that were horrible. I mean, it took them a day to get into the one in Damascus, Sinai, where the government had fled and left these electronic security doors locked. So they had to get guys to actually cut into these cells to let people out. You've seen dramatic footage of people who were stuck in there, heartbreaking footage of children who were born and raised in captivity in a prison, which is some of the most shocking things I think you're ever going to see in the monstrousness of a brutal regime like Assad's 50-year rule between him and his father. We have not seen him. Apparently, he's in Russia, is what the story is, that he fled to Russia and is living there. Another big interesting part of this story is that the end of the flow of Captagon. Captagon is a drug. It was legal for a while. Was taken off the market. It's a standard street drug. It's now a pharmaceutical drug. It is a opioid family, and as it turns out, it had been funding much of Assad's regime to the tune of about $2 billion they were getting from the illicit drug trail, shipping it to other Arab countries. We've since found out, since the fall of the regime, that they were actually using the flow of this illegal drug to other countries as a negotiating tool to seek a return of normalcy in their relationships with the Arab countries. They literally went to Saudi Arabia and said, "Hey, we're shipping more of this drug and we can control it if you don't agree to normalize relations with us." The Arab countries didn't like that. And a lot of folks are saying it's one of the reasons things fell so quickly is in the end, the Arab nations were allowed him to fall, and he did. In the meantime, Israel has expanded their security zone, and immediately after the fall of the country, they sent in tanks and other troops into the hills, the Golan Heights, and have expanded that security range. We've seen them driving tanks between the border of Lebanon, southern Lebanon, and Syria to interdict the weapons trade. So the fall of the regime has a domino effect across the area. American Air Force had dropped over 140 bombs in the days after the fall to take out remnants of ISIS, to take out weapons that could be used against them. Israel did the same thing, taking out air defense weapons that could be used against them and others. Russia, in the meantime, is still on their bases, but we've seen pictures of Russia pulling their helicopters and aircraft out of the country. This is a big deal. Iran has lost a lot of influence and power in the region. Russia has lost a lot of power in the region. The Hezbollah, which was fighting there and also getting most of their weapons and trade through Syria, has taken a huge hit as their ability to fight Israel. So I think we're still going to see the fallout from this story for days and weeks and months to come, as one expects. They are planning to govern. They're saying they're going to govern. They're saying they're going to have elections. People are not going to wait. So we hope for the best in Syria, and we'll keep our eye on that story for you. Another story that really kind of caught my eye this week, and we'll talk about it to the end, is this idea of privatizing the Postal Service. So it turns out there's a story out that President-elect Donald Trump has expressed an interest in privatizing the U.S. Postal Service in the last 3 weeks with people with knowledge. The idea could, I mean, it's hard to think about how much that would shake up the consumer shipping and business supply chains for hundreds of thousands of people, not to mention hundreds of thousands of federal workers, many of them veterans, my fellow veterans. The Postal Service has one of the highest rate of veteran employees of any of the federal agencies. So the idea of privatizing that or letting them go is a very big question. He's always wanted to talk about it. He actually met with Howard Lutnick, who's his pick for the Commerce Secretary. He's the co-chair of his transition. They've actually talked about this for a while. When he was briefed on some of the financial challenges the agency has, he said the government should not subsidize the organization anymore and has talked about getting rid of it. Now, look, the the government is a slow adapting to change. The Postal Service has been slow to adapt to change, where companies like Amazon and the shipping companies have been able to maneuver faster. But the fact is, there's few things in the world that are old. I mean, the postal system is actually older than the nation itself. It was founded in 1775 by Benjamin Franklin himself, the father of the Postal Service. It's been revitalized a number of times. It's actually mentioned in the Constitution. It's one of the Constitution mandated things. The USPS is rooted in the Constitution, which gives Congress the power to establish the postal system through the Postal Clause. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 7 grants Congress the power to establish post offices and post roads and to make laws to carry out this task. That was the earliest formation of our interstate travel, were post roads that the government was authorized to put in place thanks to the Constitution. So when you talk about changing the postal service or privatizing, you're actually talking about a change to the Constitution. It's not a small thing. It's not as just outsourcing it to Amazon, and it would hurt those companies too. Amazon uses the postal service for most of their last mile shipping to get stuff delivered to your house. So it is a very significant thing among many significant things being talked about. I mean, they did lose $9.5 billion if you look at loss. But I want to go back to that name before we leave this story. It's the Postal Service, right? It's a government service. And it's a common thing we hear a lot. We'll talk about at the end of the show again, is the idea that a service should be a business, and service isn't business, it's a postal service. So I think when a lot of us talk about the idea of getting rid of it, it sounds so easy, but in the end it's very much different and will have long reaching effects. Trump really beat up the postal service during the 2020 election, said they wouldn't be able to deliver their mail. Louis DeJoy, of course, has been the administrator for this entire time, has now been able to get fired. But in the end, the postal service did. And after the election, they delivered 97.9% of all the ballots for voters to election days within 3 days election, as they were tasked to. So most of the postal service was delivered on time. Most they're doing their job. So again, it's hard to criticize an agency that's doing a service. Now, this last story I want to talk about before we get to the panel. Okay, look at that number. So as it turns out, ABC has now settled with Donald Trump for $15 million to settle a defamation lawsuit that the president-elect brought against the network, and specifically George Stephanopoulos, back in March. And this stems from a story of the E. Jean Carroll settlement. If you remember, E. Jean Carroll, of course, accused Donald Trump of sexually assaulting her in New York back a long time ago. It went to trial, a civil trial. He was found liable for his actions. Now, this is where it gets messy. A lot of people say it was rape. The judge himself said that although it's different than the penal code, that it was rape. However, so what happened was they settled this thing. So the accusation was that um, the accusation was that when Stephanopoulos reported on the story, he specifically said liable for rape. And so they've settled now in the Miami division for $50 million, and the money's going to go to the Presidential Foundation and Museum to be established by or for the plaintiff. And they're going to pay $1 million in Trump's attorney fees. And they have to put an issue of a statement of regret in an editor's note for March 10th segment of Stephanopoulos This Week program, in which he made these things. There's a lot to unpack here, okay? That Manhattan jury did find that Trump was sexually abused and defamed Carroll. They did stop short of saying he committed rape, which the writer did accuse him of. But notably, the judge, like I said, later filed a motion to clarify that jury in Carroll's case had determined that Trump's abuse against her was rape, which is a far narrower definition in New York law. So this has been really kind of interesting. Now, the way it's being spun, and a lot of us are seeing this in light of what's happened with the media, and you got Micah and Joe Scarborough went down to visit. You've got Bezos giving $1 million to the inaugural committee. You got Zuckerberg giving $1 million to committee. You got the LA Times now all but changing their editorial standpoint to include people like Scott Jennings, the far right guy on CNN. This is sort of the whole narrative that there's a lot of complying in advance going on right now, that people are taking steps to make peace with the administration before they take place. People were shocked. The timing of this resolution, the settlement, was literally the day that the judge in the case ordered depositions for Trump and Stephanopoulos, and then they announced the settlement just hours later for $15 million. I think it's a little shocking. It's a little worrying if you follow these things. As you know, we've talked about in the show before, I'm being sued for $150 million by our friend Mike Flynn for a tweet. So I think for a lot of folks who are watching these unfold, it is unsettling. It says again how much of our systems that we have in place are complying in advance, and they shouldn't be. So with that, that goes to what we're going to talk about. So I think we go to our first guest is Ben Wikler today, right? So we're going to do that first, and then we'll go talk to our friend Chris Titus after the interview with Ben Wikler. But in the meantime, I wanted to talk to Ben Wikler because he has been running for DNC chair. He was on the Daily Show with Jon Stewart the other day. He's been kind of everywhere, and he's got some amazing ideas. And then, of course, I'm a Missouri guy. He's a fellow Midwesterner out of Wisconsin. But what we've been talking about with Ben a lot is the messaging and the construct. And this interview where I'm going to ask about those things. So let's tell you who is Ben Wikler. Ben is excuse me, gotta find it. Yeah, I love live stuff. I gotta find my way. Ben's elected chair of the Democratic Party of Wisconsin back in June of 2019. Since then, he's led the party through a string of historic victories. Prior to serving as chair of the Wisconsin Dems, he served as the Washington, D.C. director and a senior advisor for Move On, if you know that one. I love Ben's backstory. He's been a lifelong activist back to high school. If you work in the politics industry, you'll discover that half the people that work in it have been doing it since they were teenagers, working on campaigns locally. He helped, matter of fact, he volunteered for a campaign for a then little-known alderman named Tammy Baldwin, who was running for her first congressional race, and he helped her. That's how far back Ben goes to politics. So with that, I'd love to welcome Ben Wikler to the show. Let's have a conversation with Ben. Ben, welcome to the show. I know you're a million miles an hour, but we're really glad to have you here on Democracy Sunday.
Fred, great to be with you. Great to be with your viewers, audience. It's a beautiful Sunday for democracy.
Yes, it is indeed. So, let's jump right in. I know you've got like 900 things to go on. I live in Missouri, right? And, one of the things I noted when I moved to Missouri 4 years ago, a red state where the Democratic Party's had some challenges in the past. One of the things you see in these states when they've been kind of out the pasture for a while, out in the woods, is they form their own coalitions to kind of fill in the blanks. I know you came into Wisconsin and you had to kind of bring that power vacuum together. How did you build a successful Democratic coalition there? Because I think we're going to probably have the same challenges nationally, aren't we?
Absolutely. Now, Wisconsin is a state that was rigged by the GOP for total control. Yeah. And my predecessor, Chair Martha Lanning, had launched a year-round organizing program that I fell in love with that led me to run for Democratic State Party Chair in 2019 with the goal of building on the organizing in every community and add the communications, the digital, the figuring out how to break through the right-wing media bubble. And that has been an obsessive focus for these last 6 years that I've been chair. So many people get their news about Democrats from Republicans. They hear the massive quantities of propaganda. And so when Democrats, say a message that's actually compelling, it doesn't reach anybody. It doesn't matter. And when you knock on doors and you find the person talking to you thinks that you're a creature from another planet because they've only heard about Democrats from Alex Jones and from Fox News Channel and from right wing radio and from Charlie Kirk, it doesn't kind of matter what you say unless you've figured out a way to seed the idea that you're actually a human being who cares about people like them. So this is, I think, one of the existential challenges of our time, and I think there's a bunch of things we can do that will make a difference in these next 4 years. That if we do them, we have a chance to win a ton of races that are out of reach right now.
Yeah, and I actually call that a lot. I'm calling it mass diversified media, right? There's not just one place to go anymore. It's not the MSNBC hit. And this is a criticism for both our candidates and our staff and consultants as much as anyone else. I mean, you kind of have to go where people are, don't you?
Yeah, like the Little Mermaid. You want to be where the people are. And that means that you have to go to lots of different places at once. And that means having lots of different messengers who have different ways of communicating a core message that is about big uniting values. Democrats think that every person should have some freedom and decency and dignity and respect, and that working folks should have a fair shot in our economy. It shouldn't be rigged by people at the very top. Those are very popular ideas just about everywhere. And a lot of people talk about partisanship. A lot of partisanship is actually people being willing to believe the worst about the other side. So people thinking that Democrats are so extreme and believe things that are so far from what they believe. And a lot of non-voters and swing voters believe the worst of both parties. And so when people are willing to believe QAnon horrific conspiracy theories about Democrats, it doesn't matter if you have a plan to expand the child tax credit because people think you want to kidnap their children. That's not one does not cancel out the other one. So finding trusted messengers, especially who are reaching folks who are not paying attention to the news. We lost voters who say they paid no attention to the news by 16 points in this election in 2024. People who pay attention to the news all the time, we won by 8 points. So this is like going to where people are not thinking about politics all day and engaging with influencers, with communicators, with YouTubers, with folks who are doing Twitch streaming and traditional media. Like, we have a bigger job than the GOP because Republicans have kind of ceded a lot of the mainstream news arena to Democrats or tried to work the refs. But we need to go outside of our bubble and be able to reach a lot of folks, especially young people. And this is across race and ethnicity. A lot of young people who right now are very skeptical of either party, of any politician, who think it's all corrupt. And a lot of folks who just voted for a change right now, not because they like what Trump is actually proposing. Often they haven't heard what Trump is proposing. They're just frustrated because it's hard to find a place to live, and that is something that we actually have answers for, and are going to fight to change a situation where the status quo is not okay. But unless we reach people in a way that they hear, it doesn't matter how good our ideas are.
Right, and that's what we saw. It's funny. I've given a couple speeches lately, and I've talked about that. Actually, if you really do, and man, it's going to make our viewers mad, Ben, but actually seeing Trump on Theo Vaughn's show, if you watch the whole thing, it's actually kind of compelling. It is a matter of being willing to go into those spaces and take the time. And in a lot of ways, I think I've seen as a challenge as one of those creators, as an independent media. Thank you for being here. It is breaking through the traditions of our politics, right? All of our young wonderful communications experts that we have, our staffs, they're trained that it's MSNBC first, right? The congressman's local news second, and oh, you got a little YouTube podcast? That's so cute, or what does that have to do with my job, right? And I think you're gonna. So, do you see, is your vision at the DNC to kind of break that paradigm, make a paradigm shift? And how hard do you think that's going to be?
So I think there's a hunger for it. There are people who've been advocating for this within the Democratic Party, people who worked on this in the Harris campaign, people, there's a whole ecosystem of creators like yourself. And to me, this is like, the plants grow that you actually water and put in sunlight. And so I think as a Democratic Party, what the National Committee can do first is do some kind of research and inventory and briefing for a lot of elected officials. We have a lot of elected officials who are not part of the younger generation. They get their news from newspapers and from cable news channels. So a lot of times in politics, people are communicating to other powerful people. And I think that's different from communicating to the voters. And so helping to help people see where information actually flows is part one. Part two is training a whole bunch of people who are great at carrying messages, who are trusted, credible messengers, and then having a deployment, having a booking operation, as well as a training operation that helps to get people out there, and then working with state parties to be able to replicate this at the state level. We've built a huge network of kind of micro influencers in Wisconsin, people who share stuff with their own social networks, who talk to people in their own communities. And sometimes that's, on new online platforms. Sometimes that's writing letters to the editor of the Weekly Shopper in their county coupon newspaper. But having a boots on the ground strategy where we have a multitude of people who are singing variations on the same theme, we can then measure whether that's actually working and getting out to people. There's a lot of things that we do in Wisconsin to try to hear back what words people associate with different candidates and different parties. And then you can see if you're getting through. And if you're not, try something else. We have to be willing to fail in order to be able to succeed. And it means experimenting and coming up with hypotheses and then actually testing them. This is a moment where we know that what we just did wasn't enough. And there are lots of big structural forces at work, but there's also, just jumping out of the data, the fact that we are losing the people who are not paying attention to the places where we're communicating. So let's get creative, let's go for it, and let's actually see this as a core challenge to the work, not just getting our words right, but getting the medium and messengers right in the places where attention actually goes now.
I'm nodding. I'm trying to control my nodding. I agree, and it's hard sometimes to get the reverse. Is for those of us who want to interview folks or talk to them, have conversations. It's hard, so it's going to be a reverse process. I want to shift the topic a little bit, though. I'm a Missourian. I'm a Midwestern born and raised. You are a Madison, Wisconsin. We were laughing in the bio that you work for a little known alderman named Tammy Baldwin to start off with high school, as many political operatives start in high school. And it's funny how often I have this conversation with people like this. I can't believe there's this 20-year-old running campaign. Well, they've been in politics for 10 years. But a lot of people have talked about, too, bringing sort of that Midwestern sensibility, if you will, to the national party. What does that look like to you as a born and raised Midwesterner and living in a state that's a little bit, not kind of flyover country, let's be honest, that's what people call us. What does bringing Midwestern sensibility look like to you when you talk about the national conversation?
Well, I know people work hard everywhere. In the Midwest, we really celebrate hard work as a core thing. And actually talking about how much we value hard work and not trying to have the kind of like effortlessly gliding in. We want to show our sweat when we go to bat on this stuff. We grind it out. That is part of the ethos of how we approach everything in the Midwest. I think there's another piece of just recognizing that, like in Wisconsin, you drive any distance and you're going to see a lot of Republican yard signs and a lot of Democratic yard signs, and you're going to hear far right messages and ideologically idiosyncratic messages, and there's lots of progressives and hardcore kind of lefty activists as well. And there's that whole rich diversity of thought and opinion and racial and ethnic diversity. All those different pieces are all here. And there are parts of the country where it's just 90% people in one camp or 90% people in the other. That's not where Wisconsin is. And so for the last 6 years, you just cannot escape the fact that there are a lot of people who totally disagree with you. And if you are serious about winning, you have to engage people who disagree with you deeply and try to find the common values that could motivate someone to vote a different way in this next election, and ultimately maybe to be open to rethinking how their political allegiances fall in general. So that attitude towards kind of a really big tent, having the barn doors open, so to speak, of being able to connect with people who fundamentally disagree on a bunch of stuff, but there is some point where you can find that you can then fight shoulder to shoulder. That's the way that when we win elections here. And I think that bringing that approach across the country, it is very easy to write off people who are supporting someone who you totally disagree with, but that we do that at our peril. I think we actually need to engage people at the root cause of what kind of life they want to have and what they think about how the world works, and find the way in to talk about how to make this country work for working folks, no matter where they live or what they believe.
That's such a key factor, and that is back to what we saw at Midwest. It is about pulling together. When the tornado comes through, it doesn't matter what party you're in; you have to fit. And that's something we've learned the hard way here. A lot of us have said, there's been a lot of, in the military. I was a military guy, and even after a training exercise, even in combat, we do an after-action review. And of course, a big part of that is what we did wrong. But what I loved about the after action review process too was what we did right. Okay, let's and make better. Let's, there's been a lot of beating of our party. Obviously, we lost the top of the ticket, but we did make gains. Otherwise, we always thought we were going to lose the Senate. That it was a tough map. We actually closed the gap in the House. So while there's a lot of hurt right now, there's a lot of people feeling the sting. By the same token, things did go well. I mean, and it's hard to take over. When you're running to take over somebody else, you can't say, "Oh, they're awesome." But let's talk about that. I mean, what do you, in your eyes, what are the things we did right that may just need to be polished some more?
There's so many, and I'm really glad that you're saying this. I think the big picture here is every incumbent government in the world lost votes this year.
Right.
And that is because everywhere in the world prices went up and voters are infuriated by that. And the further you are from the political process, the more it's just like, let's try someone else, and that's a totally understandable instinct. You have to listen pretty closely to hear that Trump's plans would drive prices up and that Harris's plans would bring prices down, and to know that one side is more credible on this than the other. So there's, in that context of a kind of landslide, the fact that we were running uphill and got as far as we got in the United States speaks to the strength of the work that we've done, and the fact that in the battleground states where Trump and Harris campaigned the most, we had the least swing. In Wisconsin, we had the least swing of any battleground state. It swung 1.5 points because more Trump voters turned out. But we also added more votes for Harris relative to Biden, and we won our U.S. Senate race with Tammy Baldwin's reelection, who I started working with when she was a state rep and ran for Congress. And then in the state legislature in Wisconsin, we finally unrigged our maps after decade and a half of gerrymandered maps, and we flipped 14 state legislative seats. And that is because there is an army of millions of people who believe in the uniting values of the Democratic Party, who do believe that we should work for working people and believe in freedom. They volunteered, they donated, they got involved. We have a campaign that was incredibly disciplined and focused, and just astonishingly came together at lightning speed. And we should not discount the fact that work had an effect that we can see in the numbers. The after action review we have to do is to figure out which things we did helped, which things didn't help, which things that we should have done that would have helped, and which things hurt. And I'm sure we'll find lots of stuff. We actually don't have the data yet on individual voters and who voted and who turned out. So this will be a process. It'll probably take months for us to really get a clear sense. But we should not throw out the baby with the bathwater here. There's real strength. The Democratic National Committee has very strong bones, and I think we have a chance to build more muscle on those bones. And if I'm elected chair, I'll be really lucky to be coming into a party that is debt free, that is strong, that has an amazing team of people working there, and a national committee members who are really dedicated to winning. That is not to say we shouldn't be shooting even higher. And this is not horseshoes. Coming close doesn't win. You actually have to win the election, but there is a lot to build on, and that is part of what energizes me about this. This is a chance, as Trump pisses people off by doing things that no voter actually wants. We actually have a party in every part of this country that is poised and hungry to fight back.
Yep, I mean they do overreach, right? We do have to calculate what they're going to do into our plans and be ready to capitalize, which will be the key. I think you're right, is capitalizing and moving quickly to do that with your servant army. So I know you're getting close to your cutoff time. What else do we need to know? Where can people find out more information about what your run and what's next?
You can go to benwikler.com to sign up and get involved. And I want to close with this. We need a permanent campaign, and we're living that in Wisconsin right now. We had our election in November. We have a state Supreme Court race this spring. Susan Crawford's running for Supreme Court. It's an open seat. Scott Walker's Attorney General, Brad Schimmel's running. If he wins the majority on the state Supreme Court and takes Wisconsin back and re-rigs the state like North Carolina did, which led to Democrats losing House seats and Republican national majority. So we're fighting on that fight in Wisconsin right now, and there are fights like that everywhere. Wherever you might be, find the upcoming fight and get involved, because this is the moment when, if we lean in, there will be a backlash against Trump's overreach, and we have a chance to win fights that might seem out of reach. This is not a time to lick wounds and retreat into a cave. This is a front foot moment. If we can unite our party and fight up and down the ballot, we're going to win a ton of elections in these next 4 years. That's why I'm running for DNC chair, and this is an all hands on deck moment.
Love it. Couldn't have said it better myself, but I'm not running for DNC chair, and you are. So congratulations on the success you've had so far. Congratulations on the success of Wisconsin. Thank you so much for joining us on this Sunday. Good luck.
Thanks so much, Fred. Really appreciate it.
Talk to you soon. I love that he took the time for us. I think he had to weed it in. You know, we actually have an unwritten rule here at the show that no ties are allowed. But I think both. You know, I'm not gonna criticize when somebody takes time like they did. We've been arranging these interviews all week, so great to have Ben keep track of what he's doing. There's some great candidates this year. He does have competition for the DNC chair, and there's some great conversations occurring. Make sure you watch that. It does matter. As we find out what happened more and more, it's going to matter more. So we wish Ben the best of luck again. Another fellow Midwesterner. All right, so let's get our panel going. So we got a panel of one for reasons that we'll explain. But the most important thing is my friend Christopher Titus is joining us for the panel, and we're going to have a conversation because you can't not with Titus. Titus, good morning.
A panel of one. What a great name for a podcast. Welcome to Panel of One, where I narcissistically get to talk about me all the time.
I know. It must make you happy.
I didn't know you guys had a no tie rule. I'm wearing Grinch pajamas, so I'm fine. I haven't violated the rule. I got to tell you, man, you know, I love to hear people talk about the great thing about the DNC is they always want to analyze what went wrong. Well, now's not the time. The time was a long time ago, 2 years ago. That was the time. And they do it every single time that, you know, which is great. As a human being, I love anybody who goes, well, what did I do wrong? That's great. In this case, we had a flat out criminal. There was nothing they couldn't run against. There was no upside. How do you lose an election to no upside? There's no upside. The guy's got convictions. We saw what he did the first 4 years, and they're like, yeah, we don't know what we did. Yeah, well, I don't. What do you think it is? To have all that baggage behind him, how did this happen?
I don't know. I mean, do you think people just get used to it? I mean, it's just like it's such a shit show all the time. I think you get immune to it at some point. I don't even know where to start. I mean, I'm still amazed myself as I'm, you know, putting in new cameras at the house, right? you know. Oh well, this is great. I got it the next morning. I'm like, I was apologizing to my fiance. I'm like, oh, sorry about this. Life's about to get really ugly, but nonetheless, well, you know, it's an early morning. I appreciate that.
But how do people not know that?
What'd you say at the pre-show about getting up this early?
Getting up this. I'm a comedian. I've been doing this 40 years, man. To me, get up this early, like in human years, it's 3 a.m. to me on the West Coast. And as my wife said, Ray was supposed to be on the show, and we both kind of snapped. I snapped awake like a horror movie on a Sunday. I'm like, oh, Fred, and then I got up. I go, babe, we got to get up for Fred, and she didn't wake up, and I went back in after I grabbed a cup of coffee before I turned on it, and she just mumbles from under the covers, what kind of Nazi gets you up at 8 o'clock on a Sunday? And I was like, Fred Wellman, that's the kind. And
that's the guy.
See, I'm not just calling Republicans Nazi. You also, Fred, in some ways, are a hyperbolic Nazi.
Wow. Okay. You know, I'm okay with that, you know.
In this context,
you know, I'm not gonna lie, I'm taking great pleasure in dragging your lazy ass out of bed.
Exactly.
Not really well.
Lazy. It's 8 o'clock on a Sunday. What are you on a farm? Where do you? I guess you do live. I guess where you live, you probably got up, did some crops.
Yeah, I'm from Missouri, bro. Get to work.
Fed the chickens. Yeah, you got all the.
Dude, I have a cat. I have a rooster cat that comes in at like 6 a.m., wakes our asses up, and yells at us. You know, so. I don't get to sleep in and then my beautiful fiance, she's Dutch, and she's one of those early risers, man, right? And I was in the Army for 22 years, and I still hate mornings. And I'll be sitting there, and Heather's just like pops out of bed at 6:30, and she's out the door. And the funniest part is, man, like we have a dog that's got to go out right away, and I'm every day for 5 years. I'm like, you know, I got it. She's like, oh, shut the fuck up. You don't got it. Yeah. When just lay back down.
You kind of scream, mumble, I got it. Don't worry about it.
Let me do it this time, babe.
Yeah.
No.
We have two little Yorkies. You know them. We have Groucho and Chaplin. And Groucho, you just wake up every morning to this. He's just right there. And you're just like, hey, dude. It's another horror movie. So where are we?
You got a new show before we go too far.
Yeah.
You got a new show coming out Christmas Eve, don't you?
I do. Christmas Eve. I released during COVID. I had 8 specials in the can at that point. I released them all for free because we were all so screwed. And then we did Zero Side Effects about the pandemic and the first administration. And then now this one is called Carrion Monsters. It's the best thing from my childhood. I mean, it's the best show I've ever done. It's basically, if you like Norman Rockwell's Bleeding, it's 90 minutes. It's coming out. It'll be released on my website on Christmas Eve. So you can pre-order it now.
You got the trailer, don't you, JJ? You want
90
to
minutes.
The trailer?
Oh, Yeah.
90
Let me
minutes.
watch me some more. That's great.
Well, yeah, let's watch Titus. No, that's not it. Jesus, JJ.
You're a kid, you don't know you have bad parents. They're just your parents. I remember when I was little walking around just like, how come there's no other kids are playing Hot Wheels with me at the Whiskey River Saloon at midnight? Why? I used to go to bars with my mom when I was little, when I was 4. I mean, I didn't go with her. She took me. I was like, yo, Mom, I'm 4. It's 10:30. Where's the party up in this piece? What are we doing? I need to get my apple juice swerve on. Can we go? Mom took me to bars with her because babysitters cost 3 drinks an hour. And she needed that 4th Harvey Wallbanger, goddammit. Which, by the way, is an old drink name I've been hearing my whole life, Harvey Wallbanger. I didn't figure out what it meant till I wrote this show. Harvey Wallbanger means you drink it and you bang off the walls. I don't think we should name drinks after what they do. Can I get a Harvey Wallbanger? She's gonna have a puke in my car later. Now, Mom and I were living here in North Hollywood at the time. North Hollywood, as you guys know, is a lot like Hollywood, except there's no money, mansions, or actors. A lot of Latinos live there. You could call it Hola Wood. And ironically, like Hollywood, there's a lot of Oscars. Ah, yes. It's not racist if it worked here. Yep.
Yep, that's some good shit.
Yeah, that was that. So this story, as I say in the show, these are stories for many years I couldn't tell, and then a bunch of people who the stories are about died. Now they're just stories I shouldn't tell, but I'm not going to court, which is great.
That's the best part because you have a history of that, I believe.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly.
Speaking of court, what is the deal? Why, if we have a judge saying that basically it was rape, we have a judge saying it. It's not like some rando said it.
Yeah.
Why would ABC settle? What do you think? I know you talked about it a bit, but what I don't understand is there is a fear from the billionaires and a lot of people right now about this time. It wasn't last time we thought he was a moron. This time people seem scared. Why do you think that is?
I think that's it. I think that you said it, didn't you? I think people are a little scared. I think they're nervous that he's going to do these things. I mean, look at the insanity these people he's talking about in Kash Patel. You know, these guys they've literally said. I mean, we had a clip I think a couple of weeks ago of Kash Patel on Steve Bannon's show saying we're going to go after the media. It's like, well, I mean, at some point maybe you start believing them. It has been shocking to me though how the willingness to just kind of bend the knee, as they call it, right?
Yeah, the folding up is stunning. It's stunning to watch, man. And by
really
the way,
is.
can we talk about the people he's getting for a second? RFK, by the way, the reason that we don't have polio is because the polio vaccine works. That's why we don't have. You don't know anybody who's a little poly. You just don't run into poly people ever because the vaccine works. So
you don't get a touch of it. You don't get a touch of polio.
A little bit. I'm feeling a little bit polio. I'm hot. So, and then you got Kash Patel. I mean, is there a douchebag LinkedIn that I don't know about that he's just recruiting people from? Like how there's no upside. Like at least the first time you go Kelly, you can even Bill Barr to a degree and go, all right. And I remember saying this. I remember saying that the first time was, oh, well, the world's not going to come apart as long as these guys are around. These guys are decent Americans, and we don't have that this time. We do not have it this time. And like you said, that whole thing about basically agreeing with them in advance is going to screw us. I mean, right now we have to fight. What people don't understand about the fight. Here's what people don't get. If you give up and give in, it makes your life easier. And I look at some of the people that fought last time that he's going to go after. I mean, like Chris Wray leaving the FBI is the dumbest possible thing. I think it's really a bad move. And I understand why Chris Wray would do that. And the funny thing is that people forget, you appointed Chris Wray, Donald Trump. You put him in there. So so the guy, the deep state guy, you put in. So we have that problem. Yeah. But I understand we all don't want hassle in our life, but it's also what happened in Germany in 1929. And people are like, I just don't want to hassle with it. No, my life's going to be, I'm going to grab mine together. There's literally been poems and books written about great quotes about just folding up, and we can't do it. Will there be problems? Yes. And someone will get hurt. but that person would become a focal point for a resistance that will take him down. And this is what I worry about. And people keep saying to me, what could happen? Have you read a history book? Have you read a history book? I know you don't have that in Missouri. I know they don't teach history anymore there. But I don't understand it. There's Stephanopoulos is a smart guy. I don't understand why they folded.
Right. I don't either. Maybe there's more to the story than I'm seeing, but I think I'm seeing lawyers saying they had a very clear case. It wasn't a problem. I'm not folding. We were talking about, I mean, I woke up, this is the perfect person to have a conversation with. You know how I found out that Mike Flynn was suing me? I get up and as part of my morning routine, I go to the bathroom. I'm a middle-aged male.
Right.
And exactly. I sit in the bathroom, and that's where I get most of my Google alerts overnight, is sitting in the bathroom. So imagine the 58-year-old guy, coffee's cooking. I'm looking at my phone on the can, and it's like, oh, check it out, man. I'm being sued for $150 million with Mike Flynn.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not shitting you. That was literally how I found out.
Well, you were shitting while you found it out. It's good to see your research team where they do their work. The conference room flushes, which is awesome.
Yes. I'm texting the fiance, hey, check it out. I'm being sued for $100 million.
So how is that going to work out? I mean, you can't, if you can talk about the case.
We just found out. So they tied our case. So it's a federal case. They tied it to state court. He sued Rick Wilson too, of course. Midas touch. He's suing everybody. So Rick got his dismissed, and then Flynn appealed it. So the Florida State Court of Appeals just rejected his appeal, saying he's a public figure and all that stuff. So they notified the federal court, and I'm all pumped, man. I'm like, yeah, I'm done. Federal judge said that it's based on the disposition of this case. So I'm doing a little happy dance, which.
So yeah, you've got
lawyers, right?
You got precedent, which is great. You got precedent, right?
There you go. So they submitted to our court for another stay, because he may or may not appeal yet again. So our court gave him till January 17th, I think, for them to make a decision. I'm of the theory it's kind of the same thing. This federal judge doesn't want to make a decision until it's too late. So whatever. So
good news for us.
Still going.
Good news for all of us podcast people. Thank you for setting the precedents. Because man, if they come after me, as much smack as I talk, holy crap! Like just hearing. I know you got one tweet. Have you seen all the Armageddon updates? Just wait till the 14 hours that they have to watch. The good news is the jury will be laughing at least. But Jesus.
I've watched it. Yes, I know. I watch it.
I'm glad you guys are taking the bullets for me. You know what's funny? Do you ever get this in your comments? Like someone will comment on a thing, and someone from the right, and they say the Biden administration's paying you, and I laugh every time. Really? You think that the Biden administration needs my 330,000 subscribers that show up maybe once a month? Yeah, we're the resistance. Yeah,
the power. Look at my power. My guests are bitching about coming on in the morning. I don't want to hear.
Come on, our sponsors are stamps.com. Yeah, you're right. It's you're right. We're the deep state. It's us in a podcast in a room.
Don't forget our recycling machines, dude. Come on. We got that's some good shit. We are black. I love all the sponsors. It's funny because I'll get a sponsor and sometimes I'll just get like a box. They're bad. And I love, by the way, if you want to sponsor the show, call me. I'm just saying. I get the greatest sponsors, man. I mean, I've gotten some fun when I look at stuff in the mail. I can't believe I get it sometimes.
It's also weird as much smack as we talk that opening a random box is always a scary thing. Like I get it. What is it? So I've said to Ray, I've been like, Ray, why would we get a box this big? And you look up and it's liquid IV. I'm like, oh, thank God. Yeah, but I still opened it. I still opened it like a moron.
You don't know where it's from. Exactly. Yeah, no. Exactly. Oh, here's my Synolytics. Great. It's my medicine. Shake it like that doesn't sound good. Look, I've only been doxed 3 times.
Also, shaking random boxes, very smart. I think you've just kind of nailed the problem of the Democrats right there.
All right, JJ, make a note. I'm not. Don't invite guests that kick my ass the whole time. Yes. For those who don't know, JJ's in the background going, okay. Yeah. All right. Look. So we had panel picks. This is our bit we do here.
Okay.
And it was supposed to be for you and Ray, but you're on your own. So JJ, let's bring up the panel picks. See what this son of a gun's got to talk about. All right. So we got fun. We got So you're up. I think you can figure out what they mean.
I have a worst crowd ever. That was something that happened in the last 2 years. That was probably, and I've known comedy 40 years. I started when I was a kid, when I was a teenager. So I have the worst crowd ever story. You want to hear it?
Yes, hit me. That's why I asked it.
Okay, so we're in the East Coast tomorrow, which I don't like working the East Coast. People on the East Coast have been taught it's okay to yell shit all the time whenever they want. They've just been told wherever I am, I can do what I want. Which is a virus that has passed across the country. So we're in Timonium doing this gig one night, and there's a guy. It's literally the week that the Ukrainian war had started. There's a guy in the front row, and he's dressed in
which is great for comedy.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Yeah, please come down. Yeah, hey, let me do my opening 5 minutes on bombing. That'll be great. Although I did have a great bit on. People keep worrying about Putin's nukes. He couldn't keep trucks maintained. So anyway, so what happens is this. There's a guy in the front row dressed as the Ukrainian flag. His tracksuit, he's wearing blue pants, and he's got the yellow shirt. And I go, oh, wow, you're just like the Ukrainian flag. He goes, I am Ukrainian. I'm Ukrainian. And he's got an attitude. And he's with this girl that I found out later he was on a Tinder date for. Yeah, let's go to comedy. Is that how that works now? What a low-level Tinder date.
Sit in the front row.
Exactly. So he's drinking heavy, and he's doing things that as a comedian you hate. Listen, if you're going to heckle. What this guy's doing, he's sitting 2 rows back. He's just looking at his watch and rolling his eyes. I'm killing, by the way, but this guy's rolling this, and he's doing this thing with the level, and so I'm having a great show. But except for and here's the problem people don't get: if you sit on the front row and don't do anything except stare and not laugh, you're boring into that comedian's brain. You have just basically put in like an RFK brainworm, and no matter how good we're doing out here, no matter how good it's going, you are getting into my head. So guys doing this all the time. And finally what happens is I go to him, I go, what the hell's your problem, man? So we go back and forth. And once I talk to you and I can tell the honest, I'm good at this. I slam him. I get him to where I go like 5 times. I slam him. He keeps talking. At one point, I'm going to kick you out because I have a show. I write. So I said, all right, dude, you got to go. Now, this is right after COVID. And what happened was that people couldn't hire anybody. So the bouncers were like these 2 16-year-old kids. And this is a grown-ass man. And they come over, excuse me, sir, you have to go. Excuse me, pardon me, sir. Sir, you can't be talking during the show. And this guy just flips them both off and continues to sit there. So now it's a little bit weird, and I keep talking to him, I keep making fun of him, and I'm trying to get him out of there. Sir, you got to go. And these kids just won't help him, and I start making fun of the kids. Luckily for me, in front of this guy in the first row is this dude whose shoulders started at the top of his head. He just went, he was Shrek. I was sitting, Shrek was in front, and he was a big fan, and I had taken a picture with him before the show while I was coming back from the green room, and while Ray was on stage. And this guy looks me in the eyes, because he's close to me. He can see that, Titus isn't playing anymore. Titus is angry. Right. Some of it's fake. Some of it's, you guys guess when. And so he stands up, turns around, gets right in the guy's face and go, it's time for you to go. And so the dude stands up. Cool. At that point, a lady goes, that was wrong. And there's Baltimore. That was wrong. A guy up in the balcony turns and goes, I don't know if I can swear on your show. He goes, lady, shut the fuck up. And I was like, that's the good side of the East Coast. At that point, her husband turns to that guy and goes, you shut the fuck up. Then she turns back to her husband and she goes, you shut the fuck up. So it's coming apart. So at this point, the guy's standing up. Now they're kind of working him out a little bit. And I start to go back to my show. I walk to the other side of the stage. I've done this long enough to know, get the audience focused. I walk to the other side of the stage and I start going back into the show. Then I hear, man, motherfucker. And I look over and this black guy stood up. And then I hear, and a buddy of mine, Andrew Rivers, it was there. And, like most comics to help, he was filming it. He's not helping. He's not trying to end the melee. He's filming me.
Hey, this is gold, man.
I watched the video later, and you see me drop my head, and I just go, now what the fuck is happening? And someone goes, she's blind. So the Ukrainian dude, and the couple had got up too. They were leaving. The Ukrainian dude had slammed into a table because he was so drunk. The little black guy he slammed who stood up and was ready to fight him. That black guy's wife was blind. She starts reaching. She can't touch her husband anymore. She goes into a full panic attack. Now, I'm like 40 minutes. I got another hour to go, or maybe 40 minutes of my show to go, and or maybe 20 minutes of my show. I was getting near the end, and so I go, that's it. And the bouncers aren't helping. So I've been training martial arts for a long time. So I go, that's it. And I walk off the stage and to go handle. I go, all right, let's go, motherfuckers, let's go. And like, yeah, oh yeah, this is the only time this ever happened. I got off. I had
40
to.
years. You're gonna fight with
I
an audience
had to
member.
bounce my own show, Fred. I had to bounce my own show. So I get off stage and I walk over and the guy is so funny, man. The guy with the wife, he was so prototypical East Coast Baltimore. He gold chain, Italian guy, slicked back. Literally, he looked like the guy who didn't get hired for the Scorsese movie, but he made it to like the second audition. And I go. He comes at me, and I go to hit him. And at that point, my arm is grabbed, and I mean stopped. Like I can't move. And
Was your lawyer?
No, it wasn't. No. I turn around. It's this 5'6" guy wearing like he had this porn / cop mustache, And I turn and he goes, Titus, we're Baltimore PD. We got this. But he had that psycho look in his eyes, like we got this. Like he was so happy that on a night off he got to jack some people up. So I turn back, and Rachel, my wife, who's a great comedian also, is this close to my, and she's my wife. So
yes.
Now I'm furious. I'm raging right now. And here's the one thing that can cut through it. I turn back. Rachel's right here. And she goes, you get your fucking ass back on that fucking stage and you do your fucking job right fucking now. And I was like, okay, I'm on it, honey. And I walked back on stage.
Yes, dear.
And this whole group of people just kind of shuffled around into the lobby. And it was just loud. And I did a 5-minute TED Talk on how comedy is supposed to work. And there you go. And that was the worst show I've ever. That was the worst of it. And here's the thing. So I do the 5-minute TED Talk on comedy. I finish the show. I wrap it up, and I get a standing ovation. So I don't know. So even during the nightmare when I was bouncing my own show, somehow I still got the audience. At least they were entertained. That's what it was. It was a stand-up comedian version of Gladiator. Are you not entertained?
Make me happy. Entertain me, clown boy.
Yeah, God. It's funny when I go through it. It's like a group therapy rehab thing. I just got through it again. That's good. I have to keep talking about it.
The thing I could picture the best though is Ray. Like, I'm going to beat your ass, and
she was
because Ray she's tall, she'll kick your ass, man.
Yeah, and she's also thinking about the commerce. She's always thinking about the bills and stuff. She's always like, "So you do your jokes. I don't care how furious you are right now."
Punching audience members isn't good for the.
Well, the guy had thrown a bottle at me, and that's why I didn't just go after him. He threw kind of bottle at me, and I dodged it, and then he went at me, and I went to grab him, and he had this. He turned around and saw him. No one saw me get off the stage. They were all dealing with each other, and so the look when they looked up and they realized that 6'2" Titus is in their face. Is this the comedian trying to fight us now? Like there was a level of nuts to it that people and the audience. It's funny because no one in the audience got up. They were just kind of like watching, like, wow, what is that? Is this part of the show? Does they always do this? Titus is really pushing the envelope this time. I'm on the road.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's quite a story.
Yeah.
Did not expect that, but I love it. Throw the bullets up again, Jason. You can. Okay. Actually, didn't you tell me Ray is missing because she's been working getting Christmas ready, right?
Oh, so we have to do Seattle. We're doing Seattle and Spokane this week, Friday and Saturday. So Rachel, we do this party every year because Rachel just doesn't want to enjoy the holidays. She likes to actually just start complaining about December 10th because she's got to make all this stuff. Well, Ray's mom and Ray is also the most. We've lost her a couple of years ago, but she's was the most amazing homemaker, and so Ray does homemade meat pockets. She does her own Baileys. She does, and there's like 15 other things she's make. So right now we have a party on the 23rd, and we're gonna not come back to the 22nd. And I was like, we can order stuff. She's like, nope, it has to be this way. So she's amazing. So she's been up at 15 hours a day just getting everything ready, So
it's not my fault. This is not my fault.
Yeah, no,
That's on y'all. That's on Rachel. And I'm sure she's not watching or doing it, but I'm still blaming Rachel for her not being here. So
no, she probably doesn't ever make it on. She's standing at the door right now, and I'm going to get in trouble for telling her that she's in.
Hi,
But she's amazing. She's an amazing human being, and
she's a great comedian too. She's
yeah, she's her new show Beauty for Ashes is about her taking her mom through cancer. You saw the chunk of it.
I saw it. I saw it in St. Louis. So for those, Titus and Rachel were in St. Louis 3 months ago, I think.
Yeah. Well, City Winery.
So I got to City Winery. Got to sit back. I got to hang out with them in the Yorkies, and I enjoyed Rachel's show.
And you saw me fumble through my new show. You saw me fumble through my new show, Doomed to Repeat. And it's just so you guys know, if you guys are in Seattle or you're in Spokane, Doomed to Repeat. I just did it in Detroit. I got a standing ovation, and I'm still on book. I'm almost off book, which is it's good though. And what's weird is that the Doomed to Repeat, the Trump thing. I thought we should talk about the election because I don't understand.
Yeah, you got to rewrite.
Yeah, well, the weird thing was that it was about I do bits about immigration and stuff, and I thought, well, with Kamala, it's just going to be people are going to be just nod and agree. It won't have this extra tang to it. But because Trump won, this bit on immigration now it's the ending of the show, and as I go through it, I'm like, so one of the things is I just go, so you believe that if you were here first against the Constitution, that you get to change the rules, and that whoever's here first gets to stay because your tired, huddled masses yearning to be free are more important? Well, my family's been here since 1635. So as someone whose family was here first, may I say, you can get the fuck out of my country. And I thought it was going to get my ass kicked. And it's really weird. The people that really understand what the country's made on go nuts. They just went crazy. And I got a standing ovation in Detroit. So I think I
can tell you were nervous in St. Louis. I mean,
Yeah. I broke the show in Alabama, though. I'm one of those guys that, like, I'm not a bleeding heart liberal. I just look at facts. When you look at who made the most money for the people, the Democrats throughout history, all the way back to Eisenhower. If you look at who actually fixed the problems when the problems came up 4 years ago, it was the Democrats. So I always go with facts. People say, you liberal. I go, no. I just looked at the people that didn't screw it up every single time they got into office.
It had to have it fixed. Yeah. Well, let's talk about that Hunter Biden part. And I saw you were talking about the other day, I mean, and especially with them coming back. And like you said, I mean, the people who have pardoned, I'm anxiously waiting to see if Mike Flynn gets a job since he was pardoned. It's like, isn't that just dumbfounding, the reaction to all that? But it seems like the big argument was that he lied about it. I mean, it's just sometimes I got to strike my head.
Okay, so we have to stop this. We have to stop this pearl clutching of the Democrats. We have to stop it. First of all, these people don't give a shit. The people we're up against have no concept of right and wrong. They don't care. What they do is that he pardoned. My God, how many people did he pardon that were flat out criminals? He's going to walk in and pardon guys who pled guilty on January 6th.
And cops. Cops.
Full criminals that tried to kill police officers. Guys who plead like we have here's the video. People go, no, it didn't happen. It's on TV. I watched it. So when Biden goes, I'm gonna pardon Hunter. First of all, up on a charge, let's be clear, up on a charge that no one ever really gets busted on it ever. And then he paid his taxes plus penalties. So tell me what. Now we got another guy, the president of the next president of the United States. What, $400 million he owes? And so it's dumbfounding. And here's what we have to stop doing. The question is not, oh my God, Biden lied. It's like, why doesn't he pardon everybody? Everybody. They're doing it. And that's what they're afraid of. What we need to start doing is the norms have been broken. The rules have been broken. And what happens is people go, yeah, but we don't do that. Well, there's at one point when the house is on fire that you got to get busy. You just can't go, well, we can't put it we need to wait for the fire department. No, grab a hose, start doing shit that we have to. I'm not saying to be illegal, and I'm not saying, but we have to be just as diabolical as they are just to get out of this. I honestly don't believe that we are going to get to a place, and I'm not saying do something crazy, but I'm saying the norms have been broken we can creep into it. We need to, any machinations we can do with the elections. I mean, they're rigging elections. They're saying, so what was that? What happened?
All the things, right?
All the thing where they took all the power away from all the Democratic people that just got elected. Like, wait, you can't do that. Yeah, we can. We figured it out. So while they've spent time figuring out how they can get away with it, the Democrats are always trying to fix things, because the Inflation Induction Act actually brought down inflation. When did something they name actually work?
It did the thing.
Yeah, Citizens United gave one guy $260 million to give to Trump. That's Citizens United. No, that's Citizen. One guy united with himself.
Yeah, with his money.
I've never seen a bill named after what it was supposed to do what it was supposed to do. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So, and again, I think, and I said that when Biden came into office, and I've repeated this a few times since. I was actually on the Midas Touch podcast, and I said, my biggest worry with Mr. Biden is that he is a very traditional kind of lawmaker. He's a senator. Senators are always about, my dear colleagues across the aisle.
Right.
We're the most, we're the civil part of the government, and they ain't, right. And so my biggest fear was that he was going to stick to these norms and traditions. He would think that, look, if I just act normal, if we just be normal, everybody will be normal. And I said that I hate that I said it, but I was like, I'm worried we're going to get norms and traditions ourselves into fascism.
Yeah.
Anyway, here we are.
Yeah. And, so he did all that. He did. Here's what I don't understand: the disconnect. And we've been talking about it on our podcast, and I don't have a good answer yet. We were in a pandemic. The stores were empty. 5,000 people a day were dying. Farmers had lost billions. Then we had to bail them out with taxpayer money. On top of that, this guy was golfing 300 days out of the 4 years he was in. And you guys are like, it was so much better under Trump. What the fuck are you? What are you talking? Stores were empty. Like, what are you talking about? We were in our houses, and then Biden does here's my theory. Biden turned because of the Senate, he knows how it works. You got to remember, 50 years, Biden's seen it done right and seen it done wrong. So he did it right. And he turned things around so fast from where we were that it seemed normal. All of a sudden, it seemed everything got back to normal in about, year and a half, 2 years?
Yeah.
We were back to normal. We were all working. The stores were packed. The freeways were packed, and people were like, yeah, look at eggs. Eggs are crazy. I'm like, you guys, grandma died on a respirator. Yeah. What are you talking about? Yeah. So we have listen, if there's 50 posts a day on the earth is still flat, I think we're totally screwed, Fred. And I think this is now the ham radio of the 2024. Like, this is like, in World War II, they were talking on ham radio across the world. And we're just going to be doing this from our bunkers or wherever, welcome to Fury Road. That's what I think.
Yeah. God, I hope not. Because,
I was right last time. We, on our podcast, I told him, I said, martial law, he will attempt to take over the government. I said, he will attempt to stay in power. I said, if he doesn't accomplish it, and he did. And the farmer thing, the tariff thing, why don't people just spend 5 minutes? Look up what tariffs do. Look it up. Smoot-Hawley destroyed America for a decade. Yeah. The day it passed, Thursday, it's called Black Thursday. The day Smoot-Hawley, the tariff, the blanket tariff thing passed, the depression started. Are we that dumb? We're that dumb. Thank you, Ronald Reagan, for ending.
I think we might. Yeah. I mean, again, but I do circle back to this, and you're gonna be shocked by this, but I had this really weird optimism thing that I can't get rid of, and for some reason which is weird for a guy who was Army guy and then war and helicopter pod. If you know any helicopter pods, we're not optimistic because anything could go wrong at any moment.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's just I do still believe in the inherent good. I look at, because people keep saying, oh, half America wanted this. Like, well, I'm not a math guy, but as a math guy, if I was a math guy, only 23% of actual living Americans voted for him.
Yeah.
So it's not everybody.
Yeah. 23% is not a math problem. It's like, duh, he didn't. He didn't win. Right. And this whole mandate thing, 2.5 million votes. 2.5 million overall. That's not even just the swing state votes. That's overall. So that's not a mandate. He actually won the election by less votes than Hillary beat him by in the popular vote. So let's be clear. What do you think his inaugural is going to be? Do you think anybody's going to show up?
It's amazing. I mean, have you thought about, like, we're going so long. The congressman can wait. It's fine. He's in his car. Who's gonna perform, Chris? I mean,
I think there are junior high schools.
Sing?
There are junior high schools across this country.
What was it? Forgatio Blow and Amber Rose up on the Washington Monument.
But like I said, there's junior high marching bands that are working right now on their best version of the Star Wars theme to go across during his inaugural. I just
want to see Amber Rose like writhing to the Washington
top of a cop car, on the roof of a cop car. Yeah, there you go. I wonder how many hundreds of millions they're going to spend on this one. Yeah.
Oh well, don't worry. Zuckerberg and Bezos are giving him money.
What happened? We're so screwed.
It kills me. Well, I'm gonna let you go, brother. Rachel. Hopefully, Rachel wakes up at some point. But man, I appreciate you.
She'll be back.
Tell people. Thanks for where to find you. Tell them where to find your show. Tell them where to find your podcast. By the way, for not watching the Apocalypse Update, Armageddon. Sorry.
Go to Christopher Titus TV on YouTube. We've been doing it for about 12 years now. Our subscribers just went through the roof. I don't know. People just we will always make it funny. Fred knows we'll make everything. We'll put it in a way where you'll laugh about, and then when it goes finish, you'll sob. But we will find the good in it and do that, and then go to ChristopherTitus.com for all my tour dates. Doomed to Repeat is really shaping up. So I'll see you on the road.
That's great.
Thanks, Fred. I appreciate it.
And I tell you, before I let you go, on that note, that's exactly why we're doing the show the way we are. It's like, we in the left are notoriously dour. It's all policy and our 12-point policy plans, and it's like,
it's not the right way to do it. That's not how it goes. That's not the norms. Yeah,
humans don't listen that way. So I appreciate you jumping on here and have a good time. Thanks. Go back to bed, and I can't wait to hook up to you again.
Thank you, for God's sakes.
Right.
Take it easy, guys. Thanks, Fred. Bye, bud.
Cheers. Thanks, brother. Oh man, I'm the luckiest guy on earth. I get to hang out with people like Titus and Rachel, and you've seen a few of the guests on here. It's been I don't know. I don't know how I get this lucky in life, but here we are. So I appreciate it. So that was a lot of fun. That this week's party. So now a more serious note, which is how this works, right? So we're looking at. I think we have to look at what's been going on in the world, and this week was really interesting. As we mentioned in the news, there's serious things going on. And Congressman Ro Khanna has announced he's going to be he's willing to work with DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. And frankly, he's taking some shots for it. I mean, I could see your comments. And so believe it or not, he actually was on Twitter. He manages his own Twitter, apparently. He had a little headbutt with Aaron Rupar and some others. I jumped into the fray, as I do, as you guys who follow me know. I'm not afraid to jump in and tell people in power what's going on. And interestingly enough, we kind of didn't meet in the middle, but I DM'd him and said, hey, look, why don't you come on my show and defend yourself? Why don't you come on the show, have this conversation with the people who are calling you out, and let's hear it out. So to his credit, I always give credit where credit's due. He did that to the point where even this morning, as we were getting ready for the show, they texted us saying he might not be able to make it, but he's literally he's going to interview. He's in there. He's going to interview from his Uber. And so before we get into Congressman Ro Khanna, American politician, lawyer, serving as the representative for California's 17th congressional district, been doing that since 2017. His district, it matters, is in the heart of Silicon Valley. Matter of fact, I heard him say, I think he says, he said a number of times that he's got more billionaires in his district than any district in the world, America. So he's the ranking member. He's on the Armed Services Committee. He's the ranking member of the subcommittee on cyber, innovative technologies, and information systems. So let's get on. Let's bring him on the show, and I want to have a conversation with Congressman Ro Khanna about working with Elon Musk. Representative Khanna, thank you so much for joining us. I know you're driving while you do this. I appreciate you taking time. Welcome to On Democracy.
Well, thank you. I'm in an Uber just to make sure people don't think I'm driving while on a phone, but I'm looking forward to it.
Your fancy limousine, right? You've been getting beat up pretty hard, by your own party about your announcement to work with the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. A lot of Americans, they just don't trust Musk and Ramaswamy, right? And why did you step into this mess? Why did you take it on, knowing it'd probably be a blow up on you?
Well, I appreciate that. A lot of people have been very supportive in my district. The reality is that the defense contract and the defense budget has been bloated for decades. The Pentagon hasn't passed 7 audits. Progressives and Democrats have been talking about how we can't have a $1 trillion defense budget, how we've got too many handouts to Lockheed for F-35s, to Boeing for soap dispensers. I mean, we could go through the list of excessive defense contracting profits. And I said on that issue, if Musk wants to help disrupt the 5 primes and lower the Pentagon budget, that Democrats and progressives who've been wanting to do that for years should work with him. But of course, I will fight with every fiber of my being for Social Security, for Medicare, for Medicaid, for the CFPB. And by the way, if we are in the room saying we're for making certain strategic cuts of wasteful spending, then when we say we want to protect Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and CFPB, we have more credibility.
Right. I mean, I said, you and I had this, for our viewers, Congressman and I kind of beat each other up on Twitter. I said, hey, come on the show. And I appreciate that. But I told you that, and I stand by that. As I learned in the military, there's a joke in the military that if you're not at the table, you're on the menu, right? And is that kind of driving the calculation for you? Sounds like it is.
It is. And look, if they're going to look at places to cut, which they obviously are, then why not direct them in the place where it makes the most sense, which is 56% of our discretionary budget, and that is the Pentagon that has failed 7 audits. And so my point was, look, if you're really serious about where there is waste and abuse, let's start with the Pentagon. Don't go after the CFPB. Don't go after people's Social Security.
Yeah, but there's danger. You're going to get paid in that broad brush if they do those things. How do you avoid that? What are you going to do to? I mean, this is a fine line you're trying to walk, don't you think?
It is, but see, I believe the American people are really smart. I don't. I disagree with those in our party who think, oh, they've just been hoodwinked or something. I think if you explain things to the American people, they get it, and they are reasonable. They're capable of complex arguments, and our best politicians, Barack Obama and others, make arguments or engage in persuasion. And so I don't think it's a complicated thought for most Americans to say, look, I'm willing to cross party lines to work to make government less wasteful. There are places like the Pentagon I want to focus, but I'm going to push back hard if they cut Social Security or Medicare, Medicaid. And I want to engage in good faith to try to do things good for the country.
Yeah, I mean, people are just anxious. I know as a veteran, I work with VoteFest and other veterans groups. They've said very publicly, Ramaswamy especially wants to go after these unfunded programs. 119 billion from the VA, which is a third of our it's very hard to get veterans their health care. There's still dates here they're going to go after the VA, for example. I mean, you're going to have to battle hard. You're on the Armed Services Committee. What do you say to veterans?
Well, first, I say that I have tremendous admiration and respect for veteran service, the highest service to our nation. And if you look at the bills I passed in Congress, about 7 bills, 3 of them have been about veterans, helping veterans get technology jobs, helping them get apprenticeships. And I will do everything possible to increase the budgets for the VA, to increase budgets for veterans to get jobs. And by the way, the VA budget is so small compared to the Pentagon budget that we're talking about. So what I'm saying to Musk and Ramaswamy, in a way, is a challenge. If you're really serious about looking at where the bulk the spending is in the discretionary budget, it's the Pentagon, and start with that instead of trying to take away veterans' health care.
Yeah, I mean, but they have a vested interest, right? I mean, he's got a lot of defense contractors. So Starlink is a defense contractor. Are you expecting too much from Elon Musk? I mean, I think that's one of the critiques you've been getting here pretty hard, isn't it?
Well, look, I have said that he should disclose, should Vivek Ramaswamy, all their financial interests. I have to do that, to do it in terms of not just my interests, but anyone in my family, immediate family's interests, and they should do the same thing. I mean, that seems to me the best way to deal with conflicts of interest. Starlink, by the way, is a great product. I mean, it could help with rural broadband. I think it did a lot in North Carolina with the storm. So, but I think what has to happen is transparency. And with SpaceX, Musk had a success in disrupting Lockheed and Boeing to get satellites up into space cheaper. So if he's going to use new technologies or open up for new technologies to compete with the five primes, that's a good thing. But I understand people's concerns about transparency and conflicts of interest, and that's why I would urge complete transparency. I don't think you should be appointed to these roles without disclosing your finances, the basics of it.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of angst on our side, on the liberal side, about obeying in advance, about kind of giving in to these guys. I know you're not the only Democrat, but it is only a handful right now that has spoken publicly saying, "I'm willing to work with these guys." Are you? I mean, obviously, it's hard to take this criticism, but you have to push back too. What's your biggest frustration right now with the critics?
I like the critics. I mean, the critics, that's how democracy works. It keeps you honest. It keeps you accountable. I'm a person who believes that our party should be going on Fox News. It should be mixing it up with critics. And I have a strong view of free speech, and I don't take criticism personally. And if people are saying, hey, is Khanna really going to stand up for the programs that matter to us? Good. They should be asking those questions. How are we going to avoid conflicts of interest? But I think the message for the American people is they want the Democratic Party to work for people, improving government, for improving people's lives when they can. They don't want us spending 4 years just dumping on Donald Trump. And they want us to have an affirmative vision of what we're going to do to create high-paying jobs, to help communities that have been deindustrialized, to raise people's wages. The mistake made in the campaign, it was all about Donald Trump. I mean, we've been talking about Donald Trump for 10 years. How about we start talking about what we're going to do for the American people?
Yeah, and that's a reasonable criticism. I mean, obviously, it is what is our plan, what we do, and we're going to have a chance. There's local elections across the country this year, midterms. How do you feel like you unite the party? And there's a lot of rumors flying, Congressman, of some there's a little bit of floating right now out there on Capitol Hill. You just left Washington. What's your sense of DC on the Democratic side? Are we able to coalesce, or are you concerned?
I do, because look, I think the fundamental issue in this country is inequality. You have districts like mine in Silicon Valley, $12 trillion of wealth, and many other parts of the country, you've got people who aren't being able to afford a house, aren't being able to afford a car, aren't being able to afford rent. The minimum wage hasn't been raised. People getting denied insurance coverage for health care. And Donald Trump and J.D. Vance are not going to do a thing to actually raise Americans' wages. They're not going to do a thing to get people health care that they deserve. They're not going to do a thing in terms of actually getting people child care and helping bring economic prosperity to places left out. We are the party that has that vision. And so we should say we are the party that's actually going to tackle inequality in America, economic inequality. And here's what we're going to do to improve people's lives. And by the way, in doing that, we're not for a wasteful government. We're for a government we're for spending money on people, not wasting it.
Yeah, and so you're with all that side aside, as you go into this new Congress, what's your priority? As you're in the minority. It's a thinner minority thanks to California. We flipped three seats in your state. With the DOGE and everything else. Looking at that next Congress, what are you going to fight first?
Well, I'm going to say put in an economic agenda and hold the president accountable, saying, okay, you campaign saying you want to improve the lives of working and middle class. So, okay, let's raise the wage. Are we willing to raise the minimum wage? Cap interest rates. You said you were going to cap interest rates. Are you really going to do that? Let's figure out how we can expand Medicare so that people don't keep getting their claims denied. Let's make sure that we're actually lowering prescription drug costs. And my guess is that when we introduce this legislation, it's not, if he takes us up on it, great. It's helping the American people's lives. But my guess is he won't, because he's going to be focused on cutting taxes for the very wealthy. And that then gives a clear contrast of which party actually is for working class, middle class folks in this country. The president we should be looking to as a model is FDR. He last dealt with massive economic dislocation, economic inequality. He was a 4-term president. And in my view, we need a new economic deal for where we are today. There are too many Americans who have too little wealth, too little basic security. and some who have too much. And Trump's whole plan is to come in and cut taxes for those who already have tremendous wealth.
And how do you thread that needle? You represent Silicon Valley. Many of those billionaires we talk about live in your district. How are you able to resist the urges that these guys could put pressure on? You're kind of in the middle of all this in a lot of ways, aren't you?
In many ways, and I often say if the guy from Silicon Valley who has more billionaires probably in his district than anyone is saying tax the wealthy more, I don't understand how this is a hard vote for the 434 other members. I mean, the reality is we're producing more wealth than we ever have in the history of humanity because of AI, because of crypto technology, because of the incredible advances that we've had in neuroscience and neurotech. And my view is that we should be able to provide healthcare for everyone. We should be able to have people go to vocational college or public college for free in this country. We should be able to provide $10 a day childcare. And what we should be mobilizing Silicon Valley for is to help industrialize America, to go to places like Johnstown, Pennsylvania, to go to places like Galesburg, Illinois, and say, how are we going to build the new factories? How are we going to build the new technology jobs? What are the jobs going to look like in the next 10 years so that young kids in those communities can succeed? And that's what I call progressive capitalism, and I've been championing that for my 9 years in Congress.
Yep. Well, I appreciate your time. I know you're busy today. I really want to just have a straight conversation with you about, what you're facing and the criticism. How do you think we're going to do it? I mean, we see this. We see you actually. You know these gentlemen. What are our chances of succeeding on these worst instincts?
You cut out a little bit, but I think I got the gist of your question, which is how do I think this is all going to shake out? And the honest answer for that is I don't know. I mean, I can't. I think we have to be vigilant. We have to make sure that the CFPB, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, that protects Americans from hidden fees and credit cards and mortgages, that's protected. We have to make sure that they don't touch a dime of Social Security, a Medicare, a Medicaid. We have to make sure they don't touch veterans' health. But at the same time, we need to put forward our agenda. If we should think of this as if we were in power, what would we do? What would we do to make government more effective? And what would we protect? And we should fight for that. And then when they disagree with that, we could say, look, it's not that we were reflexively opposed to cutting waste. There's not a single American, in my view, very few Americans, who think that the federal government is perfect and that there's no waste and that everything is working fine. And if we take that view, we're going to be out of touch with the mainstream. But we say, here is where, if you really want to go after waste and abuse, here's where you look. Here's what we want to do. You don't have to go about after the 70-year-old grandmother's Social Security when she's already struggling to pay rent. And that should be the Democratic vision.
Well, you got your work cut out for you, I think, ahead of you, and you're going to be so I wish you the best of luck with all that. We'll let you go. I know you're busy. Thanks for joining us today. Any last thoughts? I'll let you go.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate the civil way we exchanged on Twitter. I appreciate the back and forth. Like I said, if people have concerns, they should never hesitate to criticize or voice their opinion. I think that's really what makes democracy work. And I'm hopeful about our party because ultimately we're the party really standing up in policy for veterans, for working class Americans, middle class Americans. We've just got to now convey that. And not get distracted by just going after every Trump scandal. There'll be a lot, but really focus on our affirmative vision.
Sounds good to me. Well, thank you so much. Good luck today, and thanks for taking time for us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Sorry about the sound. As you can see, the representative took it in the back of his car on his speakerphone, which is incredible of them to do. I mean, if you're in this business, people get sidetracked. They have to reschedule. We actually almost had to reschedule that interview, but Representative Khanna was kind enough to say, I'll do it in the back of an Uber. And so we did. So I just love the fact we had these conversations. I just felt inviting him on. It was funny when we put the promos out, there was people kind of beating me up, like platform. I'm like, no, we have to have these conversations. I want to hear how we do this. And I'm going to stand by this, guys. It may be controversial. It is an old saying, but the fact is, if you're not in a seat at the table, you're probably on the menu. And we're going to have to figure out ways to divert these worst ideas of the administration that are coming in. So with that, Want to recognize our sponsor, Constituent Connection. I mean, if you're thinking about running for office or working on a campaign in your local region, let Constituent Connection help you get your campaign running and provide you the tools you need to help win. Anyone who's worked in politics will tell you that data is one of the hardest things to afford and is often out of reach for small campaigns. Constituent Connection provides a powerful suite of data and campaign tools for any size campaign. They are built for the local level and enable campaigns to use every dollar to their fullest extent, talk to real people, build your base, and is actually built to save our democracy and not make people rich. There are three key tools that any campaign needs. If you're running for office, or you're trying to get a petition passed to get on the ballot, or you're just trying to make a difference in your community, you need affordable email, you need best-in-class texting, and you need voter relationship management tools. ConCon has helped candidates do that. People running for Congress, candidates for school board win. Our data has been used to help get petition signatures safely and quickly by precisely targeting the right homes in the area, using both commercial data and voter rolls. The mission of Constituent Connection is simple: to make campaigns more efficient, effective, and competitive at an affordable rate. I'm proud to work with Constituent Connection and help campaigns of any size. You can find out more at constituentconnection.com. I really wish you'd check it out. It is the tool, and I started working with them about a year ago because the idea that anyone running for office can afford these important tools to win. And that's how we're going to take our democracy back. So check out constituentconnection.com. We are running. We're close. Sometimes I'll talk for 15 minutes. Sometimes I'll talk for 5. I wanted to circle back before I let you go about something we said. And I think what you heard, there's a theme there when you see themes in our shows, if you pay attention. One of those is service. I served in the Army, served my nation, serves as a congressman. And when we talked about that story during the news section, talked about the Postal Service. And one of the things I really worry with these incoming administration, when you've got billionaires in charge of trying to figure out what's efficient, when you've got all these rich people coming in, I saw a chart the other day that said there's something like some ungodly number of billions of dollars amongst these people being pointed. The challenge for that is knowing service, right? These men and women have never served. They've never served their country. They've never served a higher goal. Even Hegseth, who was kind of pushed out of the National Guard, hasn't truly served in a long time when he joined Fox News. So I worry when I hear things like the Postal Service being privatized, or people like Vivek Ramaswamy or Elon Musk being put into government positions of power, or Kash Patel, and not understanding service. Because that's what we do. So, and you and I can still serve our country. We can provide a service like this, joining us on Sundays. I'm seeing you guys out in the comments. I just love all these comments from you guys and seeing so many good friends out there. And Rachel Vimman, of course, is there. There's somebody named Heather who I'm really close to. Thank you for that. We're going to have to all pull together. And the reason we had Representative Khanna on the show is because we're going to have to figure out our coalition. The one thing we learned in Missouri, we've lived it for 22 years under a supermajority Republican rule, is the Democrats can unite and they can divert the worst instincts of our opponents by dividing them, by agreeing with some things and fighting others. You heard what he said. I am not cutting Social Security. I'm not cutting veterans benefits. But there's places we could afford to cut within the Defense Department's large budget. And even someone who served agrees with that. So we're going to have to figure these things out. So I caution those of us, especially on the progressive side, who are very rigid, say, no, we should not even talk to them. Folks, I got to tell you, I had the most fascinating conversation. I'll let you go. I was in Salt Lake City. I gave a speech to Salt Lake City this week. It was wonderful. Better Utah. You should check them out. And I spoke at Better Utah. After I came off the stage, a woman approached me, and she is a former member of Congress, and she was serving in Congress in the Congress before Newt Gingrich took over as Speaker for the Republicans, and then after. And she told me one of the most things, she believes in her heart that the real division started with Newt Gingrich. And he told that Congress, this is fascinating, he was the first one, he told his caucus to not even speak to the Democrats. That's what Newt Gingrich told them. Don't even speak to the Democrats. And you guys know what happened. We ended up dividing. A Congress is supposed to work together, designed by our founding fathers to work together, to find compromise, stopped. And it's only worse now. And I don't want to be continuing part of that. We're going to have to work with folks in ways to make sure we get what we need for the best out of it, and work with Americans for their better. In the end, that's what this is about. This is about preserving our country's best, making it better, We're going to have to work with these folks in a way, hopefully dividing them, but we're going to have to work. So hiding in our corner and slamming the door is not going to get us where we need to be. So I saw your comments this week. I appreciate them. I love it. We're going to have another show next week. I really appreciate you being here. It is an exciting time. The show is growing. We've got several thousand a year total, depending what channel you're watching. We got a couple thousand. In the end, I really do appreciate you being part of this conversation, being part of our program as we grow it. JJ and I are having a great time. We do also question why we have a live show on a Sunday, but nonetheless, here we are. And with that, thank you for joining on Democracy Sunday. Look for more fun stuff next week. I've already got some cool guests lined up, some voices you'll heard, a lot of more good laughs to come, I promise. So thank you. We'll see you again next week.